So what are pathology ambassadors? Well, you're a network of pathologists and residents who work together to facilitate interest in pathology careers and medical students by working with them at your home institutions and maybe traveling to institutions that don't have a pathology residency or a pathology interest group. And you're also our ear to the ground to help provide us feedback, to help us know what training needs are out there that can be addressed by ASCP. Because we are here to support you. So as you probably all know, pathology is not a very well-known specialty, even in the field of medicine. Just take a look at this survey. Not a lot of people out there know what it takes to become a pathologist or even what it is exactly that we do. And to change that, early exposure to pathology in medical school is key. So this is another survey from 2019 about nearly 400 graduating medical students. Of those, only 27% were considering pathology as a subspecialty. And within that group, the ones that were considering pathology, the thing that made them interested was that they had somebody reach out from their institution to try to recruit them to their institution's program. So one-on-one interaction with medical students to get them interested in pathology works. It helps them know who we are and helps debunk a lot of the myths that are out there about pathology, like that there's not demand for workers in this field, that we just sit in our offices and look at slides all day, that we aren't really a part of the care team, when in reality, job market is booming. We are one of the top 5 medical specialties for job satisfaction, and we are crucial to patient care because without the work that we do, everybody else would just shooting in the dark. So pathology ambassadors are our grassroots outreach program to help medical students gain knowledge of and interest in our field. And you're also working with the residents at your own institutions to help recruit additional pathology ambassadors and help us widen our network. The goals for pathology ambassadors are to help recruit new medical students to the field of pathology and just generally to increase visibility of pathology to other medical specialties, because the more people know who we are and what we do, the better outcomes for the patients that we help to serve. It seems like a fairly big goal, but you are not alone. We currently have over 180 residents and fellows involved in the Pathology Ambassador Initiative from over 150 different programs, and they've completed over 100 different activities since 2019. And I'll hand it back for the next topic.
So as you know, with COVID, things have changed a lot in the way we interact with each other and with medical students. Even before then, there were some things about the pathology ambassadors that we wanted to change in terms of the organization, the way we do activity reporting, applications, and recruitment. So we were able to accomplish some of those things and changes, and I want to share with you now some of those exact things. So next slide. So the first change is a question of how does one become a pathology ambassador? So we have a new application portal. It's actually the same application portal that you use to apply to become any other sort of ASCP volunteer. So the link is shown here. And basically, you go in there and you select pathology ambassadors as one of your choices. There is an option to provide a personal reference, and feel free to use myself or any of the resident council members that you see on the call here, maybe one that you connect with in your small group. I have I think in the next slide, maybe I've provided a template for you. It asks for a personal statement, and all else you need to do is upload an updated CV, and that's it. It should take less than 10 minutes. Highly encourage you to spread the word about our new application portal. There is a part of the website that says there's a deadline to apply. I just want you to know that the applications are accepted year-round for pathology ambassadors. That application is for other volunteer positions, so you can ignore that deadline. You can apply at any point. Next slide. So how does it work? After you apply, you're basically committing to serve as a pathology ambassador until basically from the next calendar year, academic calendar year. And what will happen is we're holding this Zoom orientation right now in March, but actually we're gonna start this over and do another orientation in September at our annual meeting in person. And we're gonna also offer a virtual orientation option as well. So basically your term will be from September to September. And we're basically going to do a similar orientation every year going forward to onboard all of our pathology ambassadors. What we suggest for pathology ambassadors are to do at least 2 events to help recruit medical students a year. And this can be at any point, but this is our suggested timeline, 1 in October, 1 in March, and a deadline for submitting your activity report form, November 15th and April 15th, respectively. And then you'll expect for resident council to touch base and check in with you in December and in May regarding each of those events. And we've created an anonymous engagement survey for you to fill out so we can collect feedback from you for the first time really about how those events are going and what your thoughts are about the Pathology Ambassadors program. And then in May and June, expect outreach from us to ask you to either recruit a new pathology ambassador at your institution or renew your tenure. And we'll ask that you put in a volunteer application by June 1st. And so if you want to stay on as a pathology ambassador, you would just submit a brand new application. Now, one big change I wanted to share with you is the activity reporting form. I know this has been a pain point for many pathology ambassadors for a while because the form used to ask about, how many miles did you travel to go visit another medical school or something like that, when in reality, the vast majority of our pathology ambassadors are doing outreach at our home institutions. So you'll see that this new and improved activity reporting form really describes the full spectrum of opportunities and activities that pathology ambassadors take part in, and hopefully will be a more facile way for you to share with us your experiences. So looking forward to seeing your activity reports and also getting your feedback on how this new form works for you. Next slide. The other big change that we're instituting is expect that to receive an invitation to fill out an engagement survey in May and biannually going forward. And this is to gather data about whether you have the resources and support that you need to be a pathology ambassador, and also whether ASCP is appropriately valuing your work and whether there's any recommendation, tips, or advice that you would have for future pathology ambassadors. And then lastly, I want to share with you a very exciting future direction that we're currently looking at ASCP. I'm sure many of you, both pathologists and residents and fellows, have been in many ways impacted by the huge shortage of laboratory professionals that we've been experiencing around the country, exacerbated by COVID. So our Council of Laboratory Professionals actually represents those individuals, for example, our PAs, our histotechs, medical laboratory scientists. And they have a similar ambassadors program as we do to recruit pathologists, but for laboratory professionals called career ambassadors. And one of the things that we've been talking about is how can pathologists and residents and fellows help with recruitment for that pipeline. And there's going to be more information about this to come, and hopefully we can do sort of a collaborative event at the ASCP annual meeting. So we're really looking forward to this, and hopefully we'll provide more information to you going forward.
Okay, hi. I'll be talking about components of a successful PA event. You go to the next slide, Alina. So you might be thinking, if you haven't actually hosted an event or participated yet, what do we do now? Now what? So we're going to go over some examples. And basically, you can refer to this when we send it out to you. This is going to be your 4 key components of hosting a successful event. Elena is sharing her screen, so she's going to take you through these 4 parts.
All right. So if you go to the ASCP website, under the links that we have provided, you can find all of our ambassador program, including the career ambassadors that we're going to be working with later, and more importantly, us right here, the pathology ambassadors. The application link is on the same page for your future reference. And if you scroll to the bottom, we have downloadable presentation tools, as well as the activity reporting form that we were talking about earlier, and a stipend form to submit. There is the possibility of getting money from ASCP to help host your events. So we'll talk about that in a second. Here it is. You can request a travel stipend and also money for your activities, for example, to buy food or supplies. Just submit that to ASCP in terms of what it was you did, and they will reimburse you. Here's that activity form in full that we were talking about as well. And the resources, which we've put together for you. Here are everything from suggested group activities, how you get funding, how you get approval from your medical school, the types of events, how to get involved, and what to do if your school doesn't have a pathology interest group. There's also pamphlets that you can give out that give information about the pathology as a career path. And we have a presentation as well that has been put together by ASCP that you can use that has details about all the different subspecialty careers available within the field of pathology. You can obviously add to this in terms of what's more relevant to the students that you're working with, but this is a wonderful jumping off point. And back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Thanks, Elena. Yeah, I mean, so you can see here that ASCP and the work of the council has made it really easy to engage with this. But, you know, I want to reassure you that this doesn't have to be laborious. It doesn't have to be really time consuming. Some ideas here are some things that I did personally when I was a PA. Before COVID, I went to the medical students and I actually presented a PowerPoint similar to that about the career possibilities in pathology. And most importantly, I think I showed my excitement for the field. And I had a lot of follow-up and a lot of good questions about that. So you can do something similar. If you're not excited about presenting, you can just do simply talking with medical students that come through your department, whether they're, you know, informal shadowing situations or like me, the reason I even found out about pathology was I was sent down to hand deliver a frozen section specimen into the lab, and the pathologist took a time to talk to me. And so if you do that, and that's something I always did, every single time a medical student was there, I sat down with them for a moment and told them how important pathology was to that frozen section. And you never know, that could be the career-changing moment for that medical student. Another one is just to host a meetup in a few minutes, a coffee break with med students. Hey, do you want to hear about pathology? Something like that. There's a lot of ways that you can engage with medical students, and the point is just making those personal connections. Next slide, Elena, please. So when you do these things, we want to hear about it because that's the only way that the council is going to know. That's the only way that ASCP is going to know, and we can brag about you. And this is really important. So we've had a few really cool ones, like this one, where the goal of the activity was to focus actually on path art. If you're on any of the social media channels, you know that's a big thing. Our field is beautiful visually, and this particular event focused on that. So that was a really creative approach. Next slide. And this is just a testimonial saying how important a long in-depth conversation was. You can read this later, but like I was saying, it's about building those personal connections person by person, and it really will go a long way. And even though it's just a conversation, we want to hear about it. So definitely fill out that activity report. Next slide. And we've heard some really good feedback from medical students about this program and about the reach outs. I think that any of the PAs that have hosted events can tell you that there's really positive things that happen. You never know who's going to, you know, take this career on because of your intervention. And what a beautiful thing to have contributed to somebody's life. So I hope you're excited. We are. Go ahead. And again, I think we've mentioned it so many times, but make sure you fill out those activity reports. And you can also just go ahead and post it on social media, what you're doing. We want to know there too. It's very excitement and builds momentum. And you can use these hashtags to also tag ASCP at ASCP Chicago and then hashtag this, and we'll be able to track the changes there.